All right, supply chain attacks. Where were you thinking with this one? What's been going on with supply chain attacks these days?
I think I'd say that it's becoming more relevant.
We
And then
talking software, hardware? What are we
the whole
specifically?
gambit. Like
All,
so,
all the
you
above?
know, so first let's describe what constitutes supply chain. As you're building anything, right? You need a supply. As Ford builds a Bronco, all the parts aren't built by Ford. Obviously, it's assembled by them, right? Some of the stamps for the sheet metal, the engine components, right? But like some of the little knickknacks to what make the AC work, right? The little dials, those are made from different areas, different manufacturers, and they all filter in this conveyor belt or chain to Ford, and then they build this product. So every little widget gizmo that they didn't make in-house and they have to buy from somebody else, that's all inclusive in the supply chain. You understand that, then you take that idea, and then that's how hardware that makes all the trons, the internet work, routers, computers, the monitors, keyboards, right? Not one manufacturer makes everything, even Apple, right? Like most of it is sourced. I think they're around about 30%. They got a pretty large percentage of made by Apple, but it is assembled in China. But the other components that don't have like official Apple stamp and they just put it on the hardware, I think it's around 32% where it's outsourced. But all those, whether it's one company providing the rest of the 32%, or 30 different companies that provide the rest of the 32% of an iPhone. All that is in the scope of supply chain to include software, right? We're
There's
not familiar.
over 1,000 steps. I want to say it's close to 1,500 or it might be 1,200. There's over 1,000 steps in the supply chain for producing an iPhone. Yeah, from chip manufacturers to the boards to the cameras to I mean you tear down the camera, and the camera is multiple pieces, right? So I mean this everything is a step in the
Even the
process.
glass, right? Like
That's right. Yeah.
you know, uh, they don't make it themselves; they acquire it.
Yep.
You have the assembled piece that they engineered, constructed. And so the same thing for software, right? The different components of software, even older repos. A repo is just where repository where software is kept, right? Where you make the changes, you push the change, depending on how many contributors to software, right? Each one of those is your supply chain, right? They're members, they're components, they're an atom in the overall supply chain, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so there's been some recent revelations, like even the old school protocols that make libc or like SSH work, right? Where end up being like these contributors that were trusted because normally we associate with long-standing, been in the game for a while as a trusted source. I do the same thing, especially for code. Like, hey, this repo has been around for a while. The same contributors, right? They produce these other codes. It has a bunch of stars, so to speak. And so people trust this code, right? And then they'll download it, retrieve it, use it as they make something else, right? So it's only a snippet of their code, or they're using this whole software repo for XYZ, right? Little did they know is like the contributors that are part of this supply chain had nefarious intent, or they were compromised unknowingly, right? Where they pushed code, changes to the code with backdoors from the get-go. And then a couple thousand people a day retrieve this code to use in every other capacity relative to whatever the software does, right? Spreading this 0 day. Same thing with hardware. Like if you build the backdoor in a chip, right? Unknowingly, TP-Link is a good one. Like so, no longer Chinese based, right?
Yeah.
It's based out of Singapore now, right? But I think that it's on the docket in the House Rep, a bill whether to ban TP-Link, much like a TikTok, right? But TP-Link like
Wow.
routers and everything because they have some ties.
Huawei was a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah. I thought you were going to talk Intel because the was it the lights out management chip
lights up, man.
run the on Intel servers?
No, I didn't hear
The
about that.
lights out, that I think that goes back quite a ways where there was some backdoor with well, I thought it was the lights out management chip on Intel, but that's where I thought you were going. I didn't know you were going to TP-Link. That's interesting.
Yeah,
TP-Link is
it's big. Yeah, it's
yeah.
as recent news too. Like I don't know if that's really founded. I know in the past, supply chain management was compromised. Again, the topic for them was Chinese backed, right? They were working out of there. yes, in name they moved to Singapore. Before I make my judgment, I want to see exactly what is being accused of supply chain, like poisoning, compromises. But a lot of that hardware, right, is said to have backdoors that are natively open to whoever wants to access it. Really, it's going to be whoever put those doors in the first place, right? So you're shipping it straight from the manufacturer with this, not just a vulnerability, but literally a backdoor that whoever has the key to unlock it is the person that poisoned the supply chain in the first place. So you don't have to push your product out like the company does it, or whoever the manufacturer is, they're pushing it out. You just need a way in. Think everything from phones, old school phone, right? Back in the day, there was certain governments that did the same thing. And then we threw it over the other side of the wall, what was then the USSR, right? And then the FBI did it. They did it with certain phones, right? They went on this marketing campaign targeted to certain gangs, syndicates, cartel members that had certain phones that had backdoors that only the FBI had access to, because these certain phones had it's the equivalent of like Signal, where you had
Oh, that's the you're talking about the super
messaging.
secure phone that they ended up selling to the drug dealers and
Exactly, right?
warlords
And then, but like what is not anticipated is that like other members, other gangs, like the word started spreading, right? And so like they started buying more. So then they're like, oh, what inventory do we have? And they emptied their inventory, whatever that number was, right? And then they just had these messages, these encrypted messages, and I say with quotes in the air, like that they
Anam.
intercepted.
Anam was
No, yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Keep
And
going.
so that was supply chain like attack, right? It was sanctified, had a warrant and what have you, right? But that is the definition of it, right? Where you poison the manufacturer knowingly or unknowingly, extorted or not, from the get-go. Then it's produced, consumed. And the thing is that sometimes it's not uncovered for like decades later.
Okay, so I was talking with Josh Bressers. I disclosed the Apple thing that you know about.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't know even if it exists in the wild somewhere. I can't help but imagine it does. But a hidden account could be created on a Mac, very low tech way, and then the Apple setup done file could be removed. The computer so that and then the computer shut down, and so that when it reboots, it looks like it's a brand new machine out of the box.
Yeah.
So we're talking about this from the perspective of intentionally putting a piece of hardware, a piece of code in a computer or some device, a router, whatever it is, and you ship it, and the whole backdoor aspect of whatever's going on has been hidden from people that are assembling or whatever or shipping the computer. But there's also a component of this where like just people that have access, if people knew that, they could be shipping for since the whatever the first one was, Panther or no Jaguar or whatever the first OS 10 was,
Yeah.
could have been intentionally putting a hidden account on computers for 23 or 4 years
Yeah.
before it was finally patched in this latest version, in very low tech. And for wow, when did they actually go to, because you could actually do this attack in post after a computer was set up. You could do this attack and you could put a hidden account on a Mac, and when even after it was set up, if you did it before the hard drive was encrypted. But if you poisoned that computer before any other setup was done, doesn't matter if they can encrypt it, they can throw their security tools on it. It was probably very unlikely that account would be discovered for, could be an extended period of time. And who knows who you ship that to,
Exactly.
CEOs or could even be, some DoD contractor with a Mac.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't know. So
Same for
I think
NOM, right? Like they just don't know who is going to receive it,
that's
right?
right. Well, they might know if somebody intercepted and actually did it during part of the supply chain.
Yeah.
They somebody rogue who's been paid off or has been extorted in an IT department. And hey, you're going to get this computer, run these commands on this computer before you ship it off to the for the IT security team to drop their stuff on it.
No, yeah, you're right. Like, and with that context, you have like if it's a train and it's making multiple stops, the ultimate stop is the user, right? Or maybe it's an org, like a router for a big business or something.
Yeah.
There's all these stops along the way, right? It
But
starts off.
listen, nobody's got any reason to worry about the Apple issue because they assured me it's not a vulnerability or wasn't a vulnerability. So
It was
we're
on
we're,
purpose.
we're all clear. We're all clear there. It's a feature, right? So you've got this hidden feature on your Mac. Don't worry
Hidden
about
account.
it.
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah, no, I
anything
can't believe that they didn't capitalize on it. I think maybe they're using some janky AI to kind of review it and then give you a response.
that could be. Um, anything else on supply chain you want to hit?
No, just, whoever's listening, wherever you are, again, it's that chain. You have a train, a track making a bunch of stops. Ultimate, the stop is where it's being delivered and being used every day. But at along that supply chain, it can be manipulated and it can be really early, right? Like, let's say a router, it can be the chipset that goes into the router that from that stage early on in my analogy of the train ride, it can be way that early, or it could be, hey, it's already shipping, let's say from a Cisco, right? It's packaged and it's being delivered to XYZ company, right? And then the shipping company, there's a mole in there, and then they see it where it's being delivered because they, for whatever reason, XYZ is the target, right? And then they tear it open, swap whatever components, and then they package it. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit wide, but that's why it's so scary, is because it's that whole storyline. You got to make sure that it's all vetted.
It's security all along the way. Because who knows, maybe that company that put the chip in had some code compromised in the repository and they've been loading it on and nobody ever realized that the code was changed in the first place.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Those that listen, and they're aspiring software engineers, they're dibble dabbing into IT, and maybe they produce their own repo on GitHub, right? And they're working on, whatever tool, you are a target, especially as you start to have more, let's say, clout, right? You have more eyes on, like, that are following your repo. I'm just using the analogy of GitHub. It's open source, it's publicly available. Whether you're intermediary, beginner, or seasoned, you are a target, because the more people that find your code useful and then use it, they realize you're shipping it for them, right? It's such a great product or whatever it is. It behooves them to have you as a target and then be able to commit malicious code without your knowing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Without you knowing of that they actually did it, because as soon as that they trip that wire, there goes their mechanized way of shipping whatever malicious intent they have.
Yeah, there's set top box. Case in point, set top box. I listened to a podcast and I can't remember which security podcast it was, but they were interviewing the person that organization discovered this malicious code on this set top box being sold on Amazon. And they've sold, I don't know how many, hundreds of thousands of them in the US. And the code on it it's got some malicious code on it that you can't get rid of. It's baked in to the Google Android environment on that set-top box. And anybody who buys one, doesn't matter where you bought it, doesn't matter how you bought it, and it's infected. And there's no way get that out of.
Yeah.
It's just gonna always, you can't go get some security package and put it on your set-top box. It's going to get rid of it because the way it was baked in to the operating system. SEO poisoning.
Yeah.
Last one.
SEO poisoning. SEO, right? Search engine optimization.
This is what gives somebody their rank. They're going to the Googs and they type something in, and SEO is typically from content on the page. It used to be SEO keywords was the big thing, but it's more now it's the content on the page, the words on the page that help drive them to the top of the search engine. But that's basically when you say SEO, that's my understanding of SEO. And SEO poisoning is basically when people try and manipulate that system to get up in the search engine. I'm guessing where this is going.
Yeah. So there's been some recent ones where, different tactics for SEO poisoning where again, you're trying to ship your malware, whatever your malicious intent. So it could be recent, a couple weeks ago, the EU cracked down on certain Western European banks prominent in that area that have certain apps that you can plug into your phone, and then doing regular banking stuff, right? Where bad guys poison SEO to be ranked. What being ranked? Websites that are damn near identical to these other banking systems, but when you do a quick search for like app or what have you, it's high or number one up top on the Google machine, right? And then most people don't realize that that's how Google's getting their ads, is whoever's up top, right? So don't look for the one that says sponsored, but for all intents and purposes, this SEO attack yielded their malicious website that ships their malicious version of this bank app as number one, and it's usually identified by sponsor and Google searches. And then people would go there because it's number one. So most of the time they're thinking, yeah, Google's vetted this thing. It's the top one. That's probably the one that I want to go to. They go there. It looks damn near identical. They download the app, they install it, and it's working damn near identical. It's just it's providing a sort of like a man in the middle, right? The interface is the same. What it's doing is retrieving the input that you gave it, so username, password, so to speak, and then it ships it to the legitimate app interface, wherever
Like
that's
an
at.
iframe or something.
Yeah, and then it's recording all the time. And so they just harvested your credentials. So when you close off later on with the next hour or the next week, your bank account is right. Other attacks are VPN or spoofing VPNs, where you type it in and then it's ranked number one. It's a BS site, right? People then click on the buttons on this BS site, download the BS version of this VPN client, install it on their software, unknowingly giving backdoor access to bad guys. The reason why you want to use the tactic for SEO poisoning is various, right? Right now, I'm just highlighting recent attacks in the last month or so. VPNs have been a big target one. Even some of our clients have clicked on the wrong version. In the past, tools for like
that's for the person, somebody could read all your traffic, man in the middle between you and
not even just reading the middle there. What they're doing is what you gave them was a back door to your computer. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and
You're
so
installing.
it's acting as a
I
VPN,
got it.
but you don't realize in the back end it gave you pop on somebody's dashboard, and then whether they woke up, whatever part of the world they are in, whether they're on their computer and you pop up, or they wake up, drink their coffee, they go to their computer and like, hey, I got 50 more victims, and then they remote into your computer without you knowing it, right? So there's all sorts of things, but really, if you're thinking SEO is the way to get a lot of potential victims, aggregate them, and then to ship whatever product. It's akin to like phishing, right? You have a target list, so you spray them with the message. SEO poisoning is like, I'm directing all potential victims to me, and I'm using services like Google and all these other search engine optimization techniques, but I'm doing it with malicious intent. I'm not trying to sell something. I'm trying to push my product. It just so happens my product results in you being a victim, right? Taking your money or whatever it is. So we see it a lot, used tactically different. And then in the beginning, it was kind of funny because you would see these I guess you consider now like script kiddie like techniques where you would have SEO poisoning, but what they did is that they had these janky ways, they being the not maybe hackers, more like illegitimate marketing firms, right? They didn't know what they're doing. They just knew that if they copy and paste this file into this website, the crawlers went crazy and you got a lot of links towards you, right? And then what it is this word vomit hidden in the background.
Yes.
Right? And then it had all these hidden words so that you ranked higher, right? But that today's day and age, that comes up as straight up malicious, right? Most of the time Google will say, hey, I don't trust this website.
You used
But
to be able to go to the website and you'd see this whole big page and you'd scroll it and you wouldn't see anything. But then
yeah.
you took the cursor, you took your mouse and you highlighted it and you realized, oh, there's a bunch of text here. What they've done is they've just made the color of the text the same color as the background,
Yeah.
and it would hide it. They'd make the text black and put it on a black background.
Or they hide it within a directory that you have to manually hand crank the directory and you can get to it, but there's no link in the homepage to take you to that one file in this weird directory that's about like 10 directories deep,
I
right?
got you.
But the crawler, like a DuckDuckGo or Brave or whatever it is, right? The crawlers go through your whole website, right? They go through each iteration, they take snapshots and do some word vomit. And they hit this thing, right? And they hit this thing, and then it ranks your score on however you want to do it. So if you understand how it works, right? Cybersecurity is how does it work? Then how do you break it? And then if you want to be good, you say, like, how do I prevent others from breaking it? So if we're in the middle stage, how do you break it? You know how it works. So more keywords, you know how crawlers work. You just have this one file with all this word vomit, right? Whatever you're trying to do, whether it's poison it, right? Put a bunch of, I don't know, porn words, right? Or you're trying to feed your porn site, maybe a bunch of words that kind of read, and then a link that redirects you over there, meaning it redirects the crawler to somewhere else, because that's what crawlers do, right? Again, you know how it works. Or you can poison the website, and then it's starting to rank low, and then that's your intent, and then you hit whoever the webmaster is. Hey, I can make it stop. Can't catch us. Pay me Bitcoin or something, right? And then whatever the technique is, tactic is, it's relative to whatever the goal is.
Okay, couple things. One is like WordPress is probably it's been classically one of the biggest ones as far as like different, because PHP, if you're not always keeping that thing patched, it's a great target.
Yeah.
I was working at a school system and we had a WordPress site, and somebody, they hadn't run all the patches. Somebody got in, put something, it was like this strange video. It was kind of like to be this like terrorist kind of video,
Yeah.
when people went to the website, and taking apart that one was fun. Because my brain, I'm like, how did they do this? How does this work?
Exactly.
But from what I understand is that people are leveraging these vulnerabilities to put malicious links into legitimate websites, and then they SEO poison the site so that it's coming up in the ranks, so it's getting more hits. The word vomit thing doesn't really work as much with Google. Are they doing that? Are they doing this to kind of primarily for the other search engines, or they're using some sort of different technique to SEO poison, or to get SEO poisoning to work with Google? Do you know?
But surprisingly, Google doesn't, they're not like a for sure shot. Like it's not even 9 times out of 10 they'll say, hey, this is like malicious intent. I'd say it's more like 4 or 5 times out of 10 they might say, hey, it's not going to work with us. But really it's the practice. What they do is, more times than not, they'll hit up your website, and they'll demote it, so it penalizes the victim, and the victim doesn't know why, right? Meaning they'll go lower in the rank structure, and
So
then
your site gets compromised, and then all of a sudden you drop in the ranks.
right, and then that's usually for some of the engagements that where this was the culprit, so to speak. It was they're first notified because they had a drop in their rank, right? Or in one case, they actually got a letter from Google saying that, hey, it's illegal use of SEO type poisoning, and then whatever technical verbiage that the user, my client, didn't really understand, right? So they reach out, and then they're worried. They're like, they don't know what's going on. But most of the time, they don't really get a letter. They just see this sudden drop, and then they're trying to figure out why. And it might be months until the conversation might involve me, where they might mention it to me or find me if they don't know me already, right? And it's kind of sad, right? Like that they don't know why. But I've seen also where low level tech, where especially PHP, anything 8 below 8 version 8, whoever's listening, and you have a website, go figure out if you're running PHP, what version, and if it's anything below 8, with the quickness. But so I'll see a lot of where low level tactic, bad guys, gangs, they'll poison, and what they're trying to do is induce this drop in rank. But usually before they do that, they know how to communicate with the owner of the victim, not just the webmaster at whatever, but the actual who owns the business, who actually checks their email. So with the first stage is identifying that, enumerating, can they exploit it? They can, figuring out the exact number, or either phone number or email address, who to contact. Then they launch their attack, corrupt the site, drop a rank, follow up with message. Just imagine if you had a website.
Oh,
You're like,
so
hey, why have this down? And then all of a sudden you get a phone call or email saying, hey, it's
pay
us.
us money and we'll, is this used for extorting them or what? I mean,
Yeah, it's used for extorting. And when I say low level tactic, is because they didn't have enough skill set or know how in order to, let's say, ransomware, like lock every file or swap file. Or the good as like uploading something. They don't know how to manipulate what's already there, kind of thing.
so if
Because
they
it's pretty, like,
win, they could rewrite links and deliver malicious code. If they lose, they could exploit the owner and try and get a ransom to get their site released.
exactly. That or they'll try to a reason why they would want to just put word vomit is they redirect crawlers to sites that they want hit, because every time you get a crawler visiting a site, it might count as a tick, right? So maybe they're selling SEO and it's a illegitimate version of SEO, or maybe they're redirecting all the traffic and crawlers that go to this website, and they're redirected to this other host, another victim, where it hosts malware, or maybe they're hosting malware directly on that machine. But we see it all the time. It's low level tactics, and then they're really good at finding a way, right? They're like water, every little crack, but it is key to figure out what is the whole goal,
So
right? Because
this, yeah.
by the time you find something, right, it's usually because they either messed up or they wanted you to see it, right? I hate to say it, but more times than not, the SEO type of detection, when you figure out something's nefarious going on or suspicious, it's usually a reaction, not. There are some tools and mechanics, if you will, where you can be on top of it, right? Where you're managing your data persona. When I say it's really your organizations, right? Whatever entity you're working for, if it's your own brand, there's ways to monitor that. But so it blends into the world of marketing, right? Where some of these tactics used for marketing are just weaponized. That's just like LLMs, right? Like
So like getting a fingerprint from your homepage and monitoring that for changes so that you immediately know.
Yeah, that, or you can build your own crawler and you give it confined space. Let's say you had here's a business case, right? So let's say Dana IT, right? You're managing 10 different web servers, right? Maybe 20 different websites, 2 on each web server, right? Then you built your own crawler, but you gave it confinement. Here's your target, these 20 websites on these 10 different servers, right? So theoretically, you have 10 IPs, right? And then you told your crawler to continuously monitor, and then it yields a result. And then you might say, alert me, right? Automatic function, alert me whenever there's a deviation from normal, right? Also alert me whenever you find, and then you define what word vomit is, right? Or UA codes for like Google Analytics. Whenever these change, right? You can track those. And so again, what makes that a beautiful thing is that when you build it, right? You get to be a tinkerer, but in order to be successful, you have to know how things work. And then so then you know how to weaponize it. And then what you're doing, right, in our business case here is how to prevent others from breaking it. Because you already did the mental gymnastics of breaking it. You're like, I did what you're trying to do. I know how to stop you, right?
Right. That's great stuff. Rudi, this has been awesome. I love going through this stuff. I love digging. I love being presented with more challenging concepts in security than I get introduced to on a regular basis in my work.
Yeah.
So this was a lot of fun doing research for this. And there's probably 15, 20 links that'll be down in the notes for however you're watching this and or listening to this. But this has been a lot of fun. Any last bits of wisdom?
Well, like in our emails, I usually have like my one sentence in the end, right? Right before I sign off, and I, stay brilliant. So today I'll add stay brilliant but vigilant.
Yes,
For
cool.
having.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we're going to sign off for now, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks again, Rudi, for being here with us.
No, thank you. Have a good one.